Do you remember uh, the story of Bathsheba um, in Uriah? This is one of the most intriguing stories I've ever read in the Bible. Now, I'm going to speak from the perspective of knowing this story before I ever understood what an Israelite was, what keeping the commandments were, any of that stuff. Uh, I was always just interested in these storylines. I mean, one of the most infamous storylines, you watch the story in, at Christmas or whenever they used to show it on PBS or whatever, was the Ten Commandments with Moses. And so these stories always intrigued me. And one of the stories that intrigued me was, of course, was the situation between Bathsheba and David. Now it goes sort of like this: you got this king in this kingdom, um, and he's ruling over his people, and he's a man after God's own heart. I'm telling the story how I read it and perceived it before this, so that you can get my understanding. So he sees a woman on top of a balcony or something, taking a shower, taking a bath. Stop there. Stop there. This is supposed to be a righteous man. This is supposed to be a man after God's own heart. And he's eyeing this married woman who he knows is a married woman. Okay? Now, this is why I say, hey, it kind of threw a conflict with me, because why is this righteous man doing this? And he knows what he's doing. So this man somehow links up with this woman. Now, again, stop there. You got to understand the dynamic of what's going on in this situation. You have a married woman that is openly out, because this is how I proceed. I'm a logical person. I'm an analytical person. I'm big on analytics and understanding what's going on in the dynamic, the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, the motivation, everything. The storyline doesn't say it, but I would think that this woman knows who the king of these people are. She's one of his subjects. She knows where he is. She's seen him around. And this woman is openly out while her husband is away fighting war for this king. And she's openly showing her body. Don't you think this woman knew that this man was looking at her? Don't you think this woman knew that I mean, think about it logically. You know what I'm saying? She's out in the open, taking a bath. And this man has a clear view of her. Fast forward. Now, thinking about this, would your loving wife that loves and respects you be out in the open where any man can possibly see her taking a shower or a bath? No, I wouldn't think that. I wouldn't think that. No one, just like today, no one ever questions the character, motives of a woman. But does not the scriptures warn us again and again about women? So you have a treacherous situation going on from the jump. And listen, when you got a situation like that going on, you go back to the Ten Commandments. You know what I'm saying? You're not supposed to be lusting after another man's. I mean, these are things that you know. You're not supposed to be lusting after in your heart after another man's wife. You know what I'm saying? You've committed adultery in your heart. So the sin had already been committed. He was just acting out on it. You fast forward to today, and you have men in positions of power that are around these modern day Bathshebas, right? And they're lusting after married men's wives. They're not touching. But you know what I'm saying? I'm from New York. You know what I'm saying? Player, town. I know about that life. You know what I'm saying? And so you know how you can throw a glance at a woman. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it don't take much to subliminally or under the cheek or under the radar, just throw a woman a glance, and that woman receives that glance. You know exactly what's going on. Anybody that has been out there and has been a little player, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. Just throw a woman a little glance, whatever. When a husband ain't looking, when somebody ain't looking, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's a single woman or a married woman, you know when a woman is interested in you. You know when a woman um, uh, uh, may give you that play. And see, this is what's going on today, the same kind of stuff. So a man, that, these men, they may not um uh uh openly do it, but they've already done it in their heart. And then there's a breakup, there's some type of calamity in that relationship, and then that man goes and gets with that woman. It was already pre-planned, baby. It was already pre-planned between that man and that woman. You see? And see, now that this woman knows that she has some little option because of hypergamy, they're always trying to level up. She gonna trade you in big time. This is why I say, know the kind of woman that you're dealing with, if she's loyal or not. Because let me tell you now, people respond differently. And there's a difference between justice and vengeance. There is a difference between the two. If a man attempts to harm my family, my children, my wife, and I retaliate, that's justice. There is a difference between the two. And so we need to understand the difference between the two. What if you're right? And then he sent this man, he sent this man off, Uriah. He sent them off to war knowing that he was going to get killed. I mean, it was all preconceived. It was all planned. So if you think that was going on between these people, which was defined, King David was defined as a man after God's own heart, what makes you think it ain't going to happen today? What makes you think it's not going to happen today? It's clearly happening today, i.e., man and woman married. Man gets a divorce, or there's a breakup, or something happened, and that man goes, and that woman goes to this other man. Don't you think that there was lust going on between that man and that woman prior? You think that it just automatically just popped into that man's head and saying, oh, now she's single, or now she's available, I'm going to get with her? No, he been planning it for a long time. Player to player, pimp to pimp. Let me tell you something. This is how they think. This is how they get down. And so you got to understand these kind of situations and understand exactly what you're dealing with, because people are so gullible. They don't know history. They don't know how people move. They don't know how people think. They just don't know. They think that just because somebody's calling himself a leader, or pastor, or preacher, or something, this and the third, that this man has pure intentions towards everybody that he comes in contact with. It's simply not the case. Look at King David. Look at King David. Look at that situation. And so it always told me, first and foremost, you know what I'm saying, just because, you need to watch out for people that are in positions of power. And you need to watch out for your woman to find out how loyal she is. Because a loyal woman ain't going to do that. But if you got a treacherous bitch on your shoulder, she'll do it in a heartbeat. She was thinking about it for months, if not years. See, but she must have been thinking about that shit. How are you going to be on the rooftop for some other man to openly see you? How do you do that? And then as a man lusting after that woman, see, he had to create a scenario. King David had to create a scenario to first get rid of the wife. I mean the husband, so that he can proceed, because he knew that he could do that. He knew he couldn't do it while they were married. But you know what the Messiah said about lusting after another man's wife in your heart, you've already committed adultery. So we see it happening today. A man doesn't have to necessarily kill you to plot to get your wife. All he got to do is create some type of discord, create some type of doubt, slander you, use inside information against you. Could you imagine sitting down and getting counseling from a man, and then that same man that gave you counseling turn around and now he's balling your wife? Could you imagine that? It happens. Could you imagine being associated with a man and singing and praising with a man, and then he turn around and he's balling your wife? Could you imagine that? Happens. But you got to understand how it happens, what's going on in the spirit realm, and how to watch out for it. Because the sad thing about it in this day and age is that everybody turns a blind eye until that shit happens to you. Until that shit happens to you. Would he been in sin if he turned around and confronted King David and put an arrow through his heart? Or because he was a soldier also, and he cut down King David for doing this? Would he have been out of line? I guess that wasn't in the Most High's agenda, but think about it. Would he have been out of line? Everybody handles situations very differently. I guess it depends on the temperament, the relationship, all types of things, whether, you're going to take it there or not. Hey, it all depends, I guess, right? It's up to that individual man to decide what he's going to do. Me personally, I know what I do.